All strategies make money, right? When the market goes up. But what happens when it goes down? We care about that the most.
I remember thinking like, wow, if I had just known some of these things back in 2007, 2008, I wish it didn't take my own funds to have to learn these hard lessons this way.
Hey there, I'm super pumped for this week's episode, which is brought to you by Tatler Gen.T, a community and media platform for tomorrow's leaders across Asia. As a proud Gen.T honoree, where Tatler had recognized yours truly as a leader of tomorrow, I was thrilled to showcase the success of other honorees, namely Jack Fu and Steve Chen, yes, Steve who started YouTube, who were both named Asia's most influential. In this exclusive episode, I'm on site at the New York Stock Exchange with Jack and Steve, now co-founders of Draco Evolution Corp, celebrating the groundbreaking launch of their AI-driven ETF on the NYSE. We'll take you inside the excitement of the Closing Bell Ceremony on July 12th, delve into their journey of building global startups from Taiwan and Asia, why the Draco ETF now, and part 1 of Steve's personal journey after co-founding YouTube. Trust me, you want to be all ears on this one. Jack and Steve, so exciting. What an exciting day. How are you feeling today? We are in the New York Stock Exchange. Tell us what is happening.
Well, very excited. Just walking downstairs, watching Draco Evolution on the facade. It's just an amazing feeling. We've been planning this for over a year.
And give us some context here because people don't know where we are, what's going on. Tell us what we are celebrating today in just a couple of hours.
We're launching our first actively managed ETF, managed by AI and quantitative analysis, DRAI ETF. We'll actually launch it on the 9th. And so today we'll be celebrating this bell ceremony in a couple hours.
Yeah, on Wall Street. I mean, I don't spend much time in New York, but it was very easy to find just from 2 blocks away because you see the big sign outside. Today was a very special day, and I think we've been working on this for a long period leading up this, but I think no matter how long you work for this, it's just something unreal when you actually see everything that you've been putting together all here on Wall Street.
Yeah. So maybe, Jack, I'll start with you. We were chatting a little bit earlier about your background. You come from a rich history of investment banking, working for Union Bank, then building your own hedge fund, working with family offices, investments. That is in your blood. What does it mean for you to be listing this product right here, right now?
Oh, this is a new chapter of my life. Before being in the asset management business, we had a hedge fund initially, and that was more focused on the private placement or private market, where we focus only on high net worth individuals and institutions. But with the ETF, Steve and I, we always wanted to open up our product to the world. So there's no minimum requirement for people to have access to our investment products, which we are proud of.
You've been doing this for years, looking at the different financial products out there. And of course, AI is the moment, right? Everybody is putting out a different AI-driven product. How is your ETF different, and what do you see it becoming in the market?
So we have our own way of training our AI. I say this all the time. It's really difficult to explain to people why Pepsi Cola is tastier than Coca-Cola, right? Because it's just different. So we are not the first actively managed ETF AI powered, but we've been doing this for years. And then we have our own methodology and our take on which investment strategies that we like, and also the underlying assets that we focus on. So at the moment, we're not focusing on products such as like cryptocurrency or any product that, if it's pure AI, it probably choose the products or the investment assets that has risen tremendously in the last couple of years. But for us, our focus is mainly on the defensive side. All strategies make money, right, when the market goes up. But what happens when it goes down? We care about that the most. Having an AI, having a system that tells us when to buy equity and when the market is bullish, or when the market goes down, we would move into defensive assets. So we don't have to decide what to buy. Our AI does that for us. It just takes the worrying out of play with our investments.
So it's a multi-asset strategy. And of course, AI is guiding, and it sort of makes sense, right? We've sort of built ourselves in the financial markets to come to this point because it's a huge data ingest to get through AI is sort of removing the human error in that way. But at the same time, there is some risk, right? In which any malfunction, technology doesn't always work. How do you think about that, what you deem to be a low risk product?
The AI is not just like a robot that just does the trading by itself. So our AI mainly tells us, after digesting all the macroeconomic data, it gives us a view of the next 7 to 10 days. So whether it's bullish, bearish, or very bearish. So we have different investment themes like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. For example, A would be strongly very bullish, whereas J would be very defensive. So our AI gives us a direction. So all these investment themes are preset with our investment logics and all the themes. So when it goes to A, all the percentages and allocations are already set. So it just tells us which one is suitable for a current moment in the market.
Love it. Steve, let me turn to you a little bit. You were saying this is not an everyday life for Steve Chen. He's been with PayPal, eBay, YouTube. And this is somewhat a new chapter though, with Taiwan being part of it and both of you meeting in Taiwan. What does today mean to you?
Yeah, so I mean, before the interview, right, we were kind of briefly talking, really that 20 years spent in Silicon Valley before going back to Taiwan in 2019, where I met Jack. It was really all spent in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. And it was roles in PayPal, YouTube, the acquisition with Google, and then doing a lot of investing there in terms of as a kind of an angel investor or into venture capital funds. But in 2019, kind of influenced by family, by kids wanting to have my 2 kids getting some exposure to living outside of the US. At the time, it was just a month, but with COVID coming 3 months after we moved to Taiwan, we've extended and extended and extended. Now it's indefinitely extended our stay in Taiwan. So now we're in 2024, 5-6 years have passed and we're still there and we're planning to fly back there again once the school year starts. But I think from my own work life, I didn't know it at the time because when I first moved to Taiwan, most of my work was still done over Zoom with folks in Silicon Valley. But it was through meeting Jack that I started realizing there's a few bullet points that's really, I think, to me, exciting about what we're doing with Draco, right? One of them is there's been a disproportionate high number of Taiwanese American entrepreneurs that have started companies from Silicon Valley. So, of course, you have like NVIDIA and AMD, even Twitch was a Taiwanese American co-founder, YouTube, and the list goes on. And Taiwan is a 23 million person population. It's a pretty small country. But when you go to Taiwan, the governments there is always asking, what is so special about the Taiwanese American entrepreneurs? Because in the last 20 years, of course, there are the TSMCs and the semiconductor industry there in Taiwan, but they're looking at more of the consumer base, more of the user-facing startups. And in the last 20 years, there haven't been many startups that have formed in Taiwan. But obviously, the engineers are very good there because you do have the products that they're creating that can't be replicated anywhere else in the world when it comes to semiconductors. And so even in the times that I've been going back to Taiwan, it's been meeting up with the government and just trying to throw out ideas of like, what are the things that can be actually done? But it was really changing when I was physically living there. And I had a hands-on opportunity to be able to talk with and work with many of the engineers there. And then from talking with Jack, we started thinking about there's nothing that really can prevent us from being able to kind of create almost like a satellite of Silicon Valley. I mean, being able to create something within Taiwan, but really focusing on, instead of just within the target audience of 23 million people in Taiwan, let's build it for something for the much larger audience for the entire world. And so that was the initial discussions of what we got started. I mean, I think we're definitely reached a checkbox phase here to be celebrating this moment, this time in New York.
And you joined hands 2020. So it's been 4 years that you all have been building. I guess a question for you, Steve, what did you see in Draco? All the different ways that you could be investing. Why in this way with this ETF?
It really came from my kind of personal life experiences and the kind of personally managing my own finances and trying to figure it out, doing it from remote. I was working with a team from Singapore, Silicon Valley, in New York, but it really still came down to kind of trying to simplify. And after a period of years, I remember thinking like, wow, if I had just known some of these things back in 2007, 2008, I wish it didn't take my own funds to have to learn these hard lessons this way. If I had just known some of these lessons, and it was just really going through those stories. And as we started talking more and more, it seemed like I wasn't the only one that was experiencing some of these issues. Like, I think there are many of these financial decisions that can be massively simplified in many ways, as we've talked about, like possible ways that we could address this, that we can also bring in our past experiences together in a hybrid way to create something together. Me with my technology and AI background, and then Jack with his financial background.
So that leads me very nicely to this next question. How has your partnership evolved over the years? I think Steve has been pretty good in choosing his co-founders, and from one chapter to the next with Chad, with Jawed, right? Like, you've continued those relationships, and now he's in partnership with you. What has that meant for you and Draco?
Well, he's Steve Chen, right? So he's a star everywhere.
No words. No words needed.
Yeah, no words needed.
But I guess we don't see Steve in the way that you have, working with him on a new product, right? Realistically, if you look at his background, yes, he has technology background, but this is the first time he's doing anything in the hedge fund world. Am I right in saying that?
Yes. Draco Evolution is more of a tech company. This is where Steve comes in. We had a question yesterday. Why is he the CTO, not the CEO? Right. CTO is more like the brain of the company, right? So CEO does a lot of the selling, a lot of the dirty work. But Steve, gives us direction. Steve would have a different take on, because I'm more of a traditional hedge fund, company mindset.
What does that mean? I mean, you've got people from family offices who may not be in the hedge fund world directly. Yes. What should they understand about your thinking as a hedge fund manager?
As a hedge fund manager is more traditional. For example, with Draco Evolution, we also have an app. We haven't launched it yet. But when building a product, we want to know where the money will be, coming from, the income. But talking with Steve, he has a different mindset of how YouTube was built. So instead of charging people like, $4.99 per month or, $19.99 per month, he wants to offer everything for free. So that, to me, that's not what I'm used to, because, building a company, we want to be able to make money. But Steve's thinking about getting the global market, getting people to use the product.
The user experience before the ads.
Always the consumer, I think when it comes to innovation, right, the key metrics that are always important is just, at the end of the day, like user happiness. And none of the users are that happy when they have to be paying for hefty fees, subscription fees. This was done at PayPal. This was done at YouTube. This is still done today, even Google, or what Google's doing with YouTube. I think they tried as much as possible to make sure that at the end of the day, like if they have to show you an ad, let's make the ad relevant. There are ways where, on Google AdSense, where people do conduct searches on Google, and they're conducting searches just to actually see what ads are the highest place, because generally those are the ads that have been given the most amount of advertising dollars, advertising money to be able to be in that space. And they're just curious to actually see who's going to be the biggest provider for the service that they're looking for. The ads have become so relevant on Google that they've become somewhat useful. In the same way, I think that for a long time at YouTube, it was always trying to figure out, if I have to show these 15-second ads, 15-second pre-rolls, interstitials, if we can make the ads relevant, then you have times when people are actually sharing videos, but those videos are actually of, Coca-Cola ads or Nike ads or something. Like, one of the most popular videos on YouTube early on that reached 1 million views was this Ronaldinho Nike video that he was juggling the soccer ball. And I thought that, look, like, that became 1 million, but that was actually an ad. And every time people are sharing this, they're actually endorsing and they're actually helping market Nike. But people don't see it that way, because that's actually entertainment. And so I think that there's this blend between the two. When we were talking about what things we should prioritize, especially in the early phases of the app when it comes to the consumer side, I think this is very different from many of the other startups that you see in Taiwan, where it's one thing to be dealing with semiconductors and hardware, but when your customer is the actual consumer themselves, then you have to actually really think about what that end user experience is like. And so when talking with Jack, it was about, let's make sure that we build a product that's actually a loved app by the actual users, an app that they want to virally share, they want to share by themselves, they want to tell other people about. And that's more important than let's figure out what the monetization strategy is from day one.
Ooh, so Steve is disrupting you. Sounds like I can see him shifting a little bit as he's thinking about monetization here. But this is good. This is good. I mean, it's bringing sort of interdisciplinary views into what ultimately is a consumer-facing product, right? You're listing right here for the world, as you said, versus private placements that you've been used to doing.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about Draco and the evolution. This is one of many steps, right? We've got a long way to go. I read in your last Tatler interview, you actually talked about 2 products as well this year. And today we're celebrating, of course, the key ETF versus the platform. Tell us a little bit about the roadmap here, an ultra high net worth that's looking to invest with you. What do I need to know about where you're heading?
DRAI is our first actively managed ETF, but we have so many good strategies. We're constantly doing R&D all the time. We have different strategies.
Right.
We do commodity, we do futures, we do pair trading, we do day trading. We have so many strategies, but it takes years of testing. We don't just, back test numbers. We actually put our money into these strategies and try to see things that we can improve. We could launch an ETF every year with a different strategy. So DRAI would be the first one, and then we could launch another ETF in the planning next year. And then it's just for different investor appetites. We chose for the ETF because the transparency, liquidity, and also it's just so easy to reach the global investors.
Yeah. And I know it's hard to describe what is, the securities limitations on what you can say, but to the extent that you can speak about what you're building here, what we have to be excited by.
I've been interested in it from a perspective of just placing myself in the shoes of like the average consumer and what I'm expecting. Adjectives like, fun or exciting or simple to use are hardly words that you hear when you think about financial apps, when you think about financial. But at the end of the day, that's probably one of the most important things in everybody's lives is how you're managing financials. And many people, like my parents included sometimes, they're like, it's just we let somebody else that we kind of know handle it. And we talk once a month and they do everything. This is, I think, coming from a different background, coming from sort of a more, again, 20 years in the and specifically not hardware space, not back end, not B2B space, but really in the consumer space. How do you actually make an app that somebody, especially in the financial sector, that somebody gets excited about, that it makes logical sense of some of the very complex items that you have to deal with, and then something that becomes trusted to the point where you want to share it and you want to talk about it with other people. It's a high hurdle to be able to get there, as we're well on our way with the engineering and development team on building this app.
Let's zoom out a little bit in terms of like the markets and macro conditions, right? Coming up to the elections, we're not going to speak about that, but as you're launching your product here, right? As a businessman that is thinking about America as a base for global investors, like what comes to mind here in terms of timing? Was there a reason why this product now?
Just picture this. Our ETF, there's an AI, like a machine that absorbs all the macroeconomic data, and then it gives us a 7 to 10 day view of the market, into the future. We kind of predict if it's going to be bullish or bearish. So once you know the direction, it's much easier to do the asset allocation for your portfolio. We know that there's a high percentage, a high chance of the market being in the bullish side next 7 to 10 days. We would hold more equities like stocks, high-tech stocks. So when the market takes off, we make money. If we, on the other hand, we're expecting the market to go down, we don't want to hold too much stocks, right? We would hold more defensive assets. Bonds, gold, long-term treasuries, or sometimes during times of COVID, we even have options or like futures. We use inverse ETF within our ETF for hedging purposes. In a sense, our actively managed ETF is dynamic. So we don't just buy and hold and, for like 3 to 5 years, we don't touch it. The holdings could be changed like 2 times per month. Sometimes when we hold on to like an index ETF, like S&P ETF, we just hold on to it. We expect it to have maybe like a 10% return per year. But certain years during COVID, there was like a drawdown like 40 to 50%. So that wasn't a good feeling. That's what we're trying to avoid with our ETF. We capture the upside potential, but on the downside, we try to we aim to just minimize the drawdowns.
I hear you. So you're taking very much a hedging approach. Whatever way the markets flow, you will be in a position to benefit from it, informed by the large amounts of data that your AI is building and then informing you and then guiding the decisions. So Taiwan is top of mind because both of you have built your relationship there. This is an American company, but both of you are Taiwanese American and have decided to spend more of your time in Taiwan. For Asian startups building for the world, looking at both of you, what are some of your lessons that you can share here? in building a global company?
Taiwan has its gold card program to try to attract entrepreneurs, especially serial entrepreneurs that have started companies outside of Taiwan to move to Taiwan. There are similar programs all over countries throughout Asia. And I think that it's an interesting period right now to be trying to build something from Taiwan, but really not targeting just that audience, again, 23 million people, but really targeting the global audience from day one. It's a little bit different because I think having spent 20 years, for example, in Silicon Valley, whenever we talked about building a product, it was just trying to build a solution to a problem that we face. We don't even talk about it. It's just for us to use, but for us to use, that means all Americans, the 300 plus million Americans that are also going to be using these products. I think it was only realized when I moved to Taiwan in 2019 that it's different when you're trying to think about maybe something that you're solving for the 23 million people in Taiwan. A problem that they face may not be a problem that's faced elsewhere in the US or globally. And so that's definitely one of kind of the hurdles that we've had to kind of overcome. Coming back to Draco itself, I think it's actually fortunate that we happen to be geographically based in Asia. And so if not the group of potential investors and customers in Taiwan, but that broader region, I think that we happen to be there and we have a better understanding. I think so much can only be passed through reading text and reading something online versus actually living, fully being there and truly living there. I mean, actually having family, having kids, whatever it is out there. There's a lot of things that I'm also juggling while I'm over there in Taiwan, including the Gold Card program, which is what I've used to be able to stay for 5-6 years in Taiwan, to be able to try to make the Gold Card program more attractive to attract talent. It's not just attracting people to come to Taiwan, but it's actually to move in there. And to really move in, you need to start thinking about things about education for kids. You need to think about how to entry into schools for kids. You need to think about how to get a cell phone, opening bank accounts, credit cards. All these things are beyond just getting out of the airport. You need to be able to think about all these things. The inverse is true. As I start getting to know more people within Asia, not just Taiwan, but broader Asia, they're also thinking about, they read the Wall Street Journal, they read about all the financial news and what are the ways and the bridges that we can connect outside of our island or outside of our Asia region. And I think that this is where definitely Draco can act and serve as that bridge.
And how about for you, Jack, as closing words here, lessons learned as a leader, as a Taiwanese American launching this global product, building a global business? If a younger you is building and in the rough, what are the leadership lessons you'd like to impart to him?
See, you had an example focusing outside of Taiwan. Sometimes we focus on what we know, but we just have to leave our comfort zone and get out to the global market, which is very difficult, at the initial stage, because in the beginning, building a company, it's all about spending your money, the burn rate. So it's kind of scary to step outside of your comfort zone. So yeah, so just dare to go out and try to, if I were to do it again, I'd find a great mentor to guide me.
And specifically, you spent years, you were MD of an investment banking platform before going into building your own hedge fund. How did that journey inform what you're doing now with Draco? How are you doing it differently?
When we're managing assets, we purchase a lot of different investment funds for our investors. And to be able to sell the investments to your investors, we have to personally understand what they're doing. And most of the investments that we were selling, I wasn't satisfied with their returns, the way they manage their assets. Once you gain enough knowledge, there's like a voice in your head like, oh, I can build something better than this, at lower cost, more transparent. You don't have to charge that much. Instead of just focusing on these high net worth who have tens of millions, hundreds of millions already. We should focus on like everyone else, allow them to have access to our investment. And that's what I want. I don't want to just focus on the 0.5%, 1% ultra high net worth. I want to focus on opening up the doors for everyday mom and pops, right?
And the impact that you seek to make then is, if you could sum it up, would it be bridging sort of the different generations and thinking about financial access?
The future of finance.
The future of finance.
So that's what we're aiming. Bring good investment products to the world, yes.
And thanks so much for tuning in this week. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow our socials on Sarah Chen Global to get the latest on the show. It would really help me out too if you enjoyed this to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts and share your favorite episodes with a friend. I'm Sarah Chen-Spellings and you've been listening to $1 Billion Moves.